Miyan Mir, the healing ascetic. The religious influence of Shah Jahan on his eldest and favored son, Dara Shikoh, cannot be underestimated. Although the Mughal ruler was not as tolerant or as intellectually curious about spiritual matters as his grandfather, Akbar, he nevertheless sought out the counsel of holy men and fakirs, especially if they were regarded as healers or possessing supernatural gifts. In 1634, a family tragedy crushed Dara Shikoh to the core. His infant daughter, just 2 months old, died. Dara's health, which was already precarious, took a turn for the worse. His father and his wife became deeply concerned for his health. Although the respected physician, Wazir Khan, did manage to improve Dara's condition, there was still a lingering depression, which continued to wreak havoc on him. It was at this stage that Shah Jahan and his retinue decided it would be prudent to bring Dara Shikoh to meet with the renowned Sufi ascetic and mystic Miyan Mir, who had moved from Sindh to Lahore. It was by all accounts an auspicious gathering. With outstretched hands touching those of the reclusive saint, Shah Jahan beseeched him to help his son. According to Dara's own account, summarized in his book Sakinatul Awliya, Mian Mir was instrumental in his recovery. As Dara recalls, after a discussion about religion and faith began, I was suffering from a disease deemed incurable by physicians. This illness lasted for more than 4 months. At that time, I did not know him, nor was I known to him. The king took me with him, and earnestly requested Hazrat Miyan Mir to pray for my recovery, with great humility. Holding my hand, the king said to Hazrat Miyan Mir, "This is my son, and all physicians have said that his cure is not possible. Please pay attention to him." Hazrat Miyan Mir took my hand, filled his cup with water, and blew over it. He then asked me to drink the water. After drinking it, my illness disappeared within a week, and I regained complete health. During that week, I sent someone to serve Hazrat Miyan Mir, requesting a blessing for his health in return. Hazrat Miyan Mir told the person, "Within 4 days, at a specific time and minute, he will recover his health." As predicted, that person recovered exactly at the specified time. The king stayed a long time in Hazrat Miyan Mir's house, where he prayed for the king's favor before bidding him goodbye. While Dara's report borders on the miraculous, it can also be understood in light of modern science as a powerful form of suggestive neural therapy, since we know that emotional stress and even physical maladies can be alleviated when one's beliefs are transformed. This, of course, is not to discount Mian Mir's powerful intercession. Moreover, it is clear that both Shah Jahan and Dara Shikoh were deeply impressed by their visit to the recluse and made arrangements near the end of the year to meet with him again. Mian Mir's biography, as recounted by Dara Shikoh and others, reveals a most remarkable man who wasn't obsequious to the Mughal leaders of his time, and who certainly didn't seek glorification. Mian's father died when he was only 7 years old, but his mother was of a deeply devotional nature and nurtured her son into the Islamic faith. When Mian got older, he was attracted to the holy sages in the mountains near his home in Sevastan and was taught the ways of asceticism, wearing a simple dress, eating simple food, and enduring the harsh winters and hot summers. Eventually, he came under the tutelage of Hazrat Kaiser, who initially rebuked the young seeker, but after seeing Mian's steadfast persistence, eventually accepted him as a disciple. After becoming proficient in his spiritual exercises, Kaiser advised Miyan Mir, "Now there is no need for staying here. You can go anywhere you like." He decided to make his way to Lahore, which was renowned for its sacred mosques. Miyan Mir had the habit of visiting the burial sites of holy persons and roam in secluded gardens and jungles so that he may be lost in remembrance of Allah and not disturbed by unwanted visitors. Although hagiographical, Dara alleges that Miyan Mir didn't even sleep for several years, such was his steadfastness, apparently related to an esoteric practice of breath control, pranayama. Yet, even this supernatural claim reveals an empirical truth about Miyan Mir that shouldn't be neglected. The Sufi saint was not adverse to hardship, and his one-pointed devotion was such that it was easy for naive followers to embellish stories about his austere heroics. From this, it is little wonder that Miyan Mir's holy reputation spread amongst the local community and beyond. It was during this time that Miyan Mir began accepting students, but he was keen that whoever will become his disciple would achieve a higher level of attainment. In a revealing passage, Miyan Mir explained to the Emperor Jahangir what inner attainment a mystic should aspire to. A perfect Sufi is one who does not make any distinction between a stone and a jewel. Thus, there is no high and low position from the perspective of the one all-pervading reality. A good illustration of this is given by Dara about an incident between the emperor and Miyan Mir. Once, the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, accompanied by his retinue, came to pay homage to the esteemed fakir with all the grandeur befitting an emperor. At the gate, Miyan Mir's sentinels halted the emperor, requesting that he wait until their master permitted entry. Jahangir, feeling slighted as no one had ever questioned his entry anywhere in his kingdom, managed to control his temper and composed himself, waiting for permission. After some time, he was invited into Miyan Mir's presence. Upon entering, unable to conceal his bruised pride, Jahangir remarked, "On the doorstep of a fakir, there should be no sentry." Pir Miyan Mir, deeply connected with the divine and indifferent to the emperor's distress, responded, "They are there so that the selfish men of the world may not enter." Ashamed, the emperor sought forgiveness and with folded hands implored Miyan Mir to pray for his upcoming campaign to conquer the Deccan. During this exchange, a poor man entered, bowed to Miyan Mir, and offered a rupee. Miyan Mir instructed him to give the rupee to the neediest person present. The devotee approached several dervishes, but none accepted the rupee, claiming no need for it. He returned to Miyan Mir, who then pointed to Jahangir and said, "Give this rupee to him. He is the poorest and most needy here, not satisfied with his vast kingdom and now coveting the Deccan. He has travelled all the way from Delhi to beg. His insatiable desire is like a fire that intensifies with more fuel, making him needy, greedy, and grim." Dara recounts how his master, Miyan Mir, besides healing his sorrow, gave him special instructions and showered great mercy and grace upon him, so that my friends looked upon me with favour and attention. More importantly, however, the master taught Dara the secret of deep meditation in a most unusual manner. I saw Hazrat Miyan Mir sleeping outside his house, so I went to visit him. As I approached, I greeted him with a salam. He took my hand and asked me to come closer. Then, he removed my clothing from my chest and did the same with his own. He asked me to press my right breast against his right breast and told me to accept his entrusted energy. Lights emanated from his chest so intensely that I told him, "Oh Hazrat, it is enough, please stop. I am overwhelmed with these lights and cannot hold any more. If it continues, my chest might burst." At that moment, I felt my chest filled with light and affection. The master and the disciple placing their right breasts together shows a deep intimacy. But what is more astounding is what such a bonding produced in Dara Shikoh, who was infused with a blissful light that stayed with him for nearly a week. Several days later at night, Miyan Mir initiated Dara into the mystic sound current. "Come on," the master cajoled. "I will teach you something." Miyan Mir then touched Dara's ears, and immediately Dara was immersed into the audible life stream, known as Shabd or Nada. Dara lost worldly consciousness and entered in a samadhi state of blissful union. For modern readers of yogic literature, Miyan Mir's physical contact with Dara Shikoh invoking an experience of the divine, has parallels in the Shaktipat tradition of Kundalini Yoga, as well as in Kriya Yoga. Paramahansa Yogananda recalls a magnificent glimpse of cosmic consciousness in his autobiography. "Poor boy, the mountains couldn't give what you wanted." Master spoke caressively, comfortingly. His calm gaze was unfathomable. "Your heart's desire shall be fulfilled." Sri Yukteswar seldom indulged in riddles. I was bewildered. He struck gently on my chest above the heart. My body became immovably rooted. Breath was drawn out of my lungs as if by some huge magnet. Soul and mind instantly lost their physical bondage and streamed out like a fluid piercing light from my every pore. The flesh was as though dead, yet in my intense awareness, I knew that never before had I been fully alive. My sense of identity was no longer narrowly confined to a body, but embraced the circumambient atoms. People on distant streets seemed to be moving gently over my own remote periphery. The roots of plants and trees appeared through a dim transparency of the soil. I discerned the inward flow of their sap. The whole vicinity lay bare before me. My ordinary frontal vision was now changed to a vast spherical sight, simultaneously all-perceptive. Through the back of my head, I saw men strolling far down Raigat Road, and noticed also a white cow who was leisurely approaching. When she reached the space in front of the open ashram gate, I observed her with my two physical eyes. As she passed by, behind the brick wall, I saw her clearly still. All objects within my panoramic gaze trembled and vibrated like quick motion pictures. My body, Master's, the pillared courtyard, the furniture and floor, the trees and sunshine, occasionally became violently agitated, until all melted into a luminescent sea. Even as sugar crystals, thrown into a glass of water, dissolve after being shaken. The unifying light alternated with materializations of form, the metamorphoses revealing the law of cause and effect in creation. An oceanic joy broke upon calm, endless shores of my soul. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. A swelling glory within me began to envelop towns, continents, the earth, solar and stellar systems, tenuous nebulae, and floating universes. The entire cosmos, gently luminous, like a city seen afar at night, glimmered within the infinitude of my being. The sharply etched global outlines faded somewhat at the farthest edges. There I could see a mellow radiance, ever undiminished. It was indescribably subtle. The planetary pictures were formed of a grosser light. I cognized the center of the Empyrean as a point of intuitive perception in my heart. Irradiating splendor issued from my nucleus to every part of the universal structure. Blissful Amrita, the nectar of immortality, pulsed through me with a quicksilver-like fluidity. The creative voice of God I heard resounding as Aum, the vibration of the cosmic motor. Suddenly, the breath returned to my lungs. With a disappointment almost unbearable, I realized that my infinite immensity was lost. Once more I was limited to the humiliating cage of a body, not easily accommodative to the spirit. Like a prodigal child, I had run away from my macrocosmic home and imprisoned myself in a narrow microcosm. My guru was standing motionless before me. I started to drop at his holy feet in gratitude for the experience in cosmic consciousness which I had long passionately sought. He held me upright and spoke calmly, unpretentiously. "You must not get over-drunk with ecstasy. Much work yet remains for you in the world. Come, let us sweep the balcony floor. Then we shall walk by the Ganges." In both accounts, even if Yogananda's is much more loquacious, there are common characteristics: inner light, inner sound, swooning, and, not least, a physical touching on the chest from the guru to the disciple. According to Dara's own account, he was a changed person after his transcendent experience. In describing the physical appearance of his spiritual mentor, what stands out is Miyan Mir's eyes, which were luminous and welcoming, despite having vision difficulties. His skin was tan, with a broad forehead. He was of average height, and with a tight and compacted beard, which was growing white with age. Apparently, due to his excessive austerities, Miyan Mir was in a relatively weakened physical condition, which given the environment at the time was not unexpected. Miyan had little regard for formal dress and worldly possessions. Accordingly, Dara explains that the floor of his home was an aged palm leaf mat, and he regarded fakirs as richer than those with great material wealth. Miyan Mir's teaching, though Sufi in origination, also reflects the non-dualist school of Advaita Vedanta, particularly when he would quote such pregnant lines as, "A Sufi is such a person who will not be there." To underline this sentiment, the Sufi master asked his followers that after his death, his body should be buried in the saline soil, so that not even his bones would escape disintegration. The one constancy in Miyan Mir's spiritual practice was that of surrender and prayer, which he performed throughout the day facing towards Kaaba in Mecca, usually in two distinct postures. The Sufi ideal of fana, to die before one dies, was the ultimate goal of his asceticism. In essence, to evaporate one's own self-separation or identity and become nothing in the face of Allah. As is often cited in English and paraphrased from the Quran, all things in creation suffer annihilation, and there remains the face of the Lord in its majesty and bounty. Miyan Mir was critical of mere book reading and scholarship if it didn't lead to transformative action. He was also reticent to commit to writing the ecstasies that he and other Sufi mystics would experience, since in such elevated states they speak of a oneness that from an outsider's perspective may seem to be either unintelligible or bordering on the blasphemous. Dara goes on to mention the famous case of Mansur al-Hallaj, who boldly proclaimed, "An al-Haq, I am the truth," which eventually led to him being executed, though there is debate about the precise political and religious reasons behind it. But though Miyan Mir was occasionally accused of heresy for his bold pronouncements, he was steadfast in believing that one should be strict in adhering to Islamic law. Dara quotes his master at length on this subject. For the student of the mystic way, the first step is adherence to Islamic law. It is essential for the student to strive to observe its etiquette. With effort, if the student establishes this, then by the grace of fulfilling the rites of Islamic law, a desire for the mystic way will automatically be created in the student's heart. When the student fulfills the rites of the mystic way in a good manner, Allah will remove the human veil from the eyes of their heart. At that time, the meaning of reality, which is related to the soul, will be revealed to them. Islamic law governs dealings, and is the means for attaining a position and obtaining the mystic way. The mystic way clears bad deeds from the innermost self and leads to understanding the position of reality. Reality means making existence immortal and clearing the heart of all things except Allah. The reason for attaining the degree of nearness to Allah is the reality. In addition, Miyan Mir warned his disciples about reading too much from the previous saints and their illuminations, lest they falsely confuse their own limited experiences with those of the great mysteries. To avoid this error, he strenuously argued that three things must be eliminated in one's inward evolution: desire, lust, and soul. For the enlightened Sufi, there is nothing but Allah, and anything less than such a realization indicates that one is still a neophyte on the path. While Dara Shikoh's biography is mostly focused on Miyan Mir, his predecessors and distinguished students, he does occasionally provide a glimpse into his spiritual experiences that give us a better understanding of his own development. For example, Dara describes what may happen to the soul after death, drawing from his personal out-of-body excursion. I often wondered whether, after death and the soul's departure from the body, the states of consciousness, rapture, fondness, and engagement would still exist. One time, I saw that my soul, after leaving my body, was in a state of rapture, engagement, and fondness. It began moving around the grave, like the wind, even faster and more furiously. The consciousness that was with me in that state became clearer, and the fondness and softness grew more intense. The work in which I was engaged continued without danger and without interruption. Then the soul returned to the body. Upon re-entering, I felt a profound effect of organization and fondness. However, it is not clear if this state has any relation to the previous one. There is an improvement in the condition of holy persons after their death. Why wouldn't it be, as Allah said, "Do not say of those who are slain in the way of Allah that they are dead. Rather, they are alive, but you do not perceive it." Interestingly, in the Shabd and Nada yoga traditions, one of the telltale signs that the practice is successful is for the meditator not only to see inner lights and hear inner sounds, but to feel a benumbing sensation in the lower extremities of the body. When that very numbness reaches a critical point in the chest, one has the sensation of leaving the body at tremendous speed. This is usually accompanied by rushing through a long darkened tunnel, where at the end one sees their beloved Istadevata, or chosen guru. The similarities between Shabd yoga experiences and near-death experiences are too obvious to ignore. In the sound current tradition, a historical overview, I argued that experiences like Dara Shikoh's were more transcultural than one might at first suspect, given that higher states of consciousness may be part and parcel of our neurobiological programming. It seems reasonable to assume that the interior exploration of one's own consciousness by hearing subtle sounds and contemplating inner light are not merely a cultural artifact restricted to certain geographical regions, but is rather a biological inherency, part of what is neurologically possible among Homo sapiens, which can be potentially accessed by anyone, anywhere, and any time. In short, Shabd or Nada yoga elicits a structural pathway within one's own neuroanatomies. Yet it is nevertheless evident that the evolution of this practice has cultural and historical variants. Indian spiritual systems, in particular, have defined and refined the technique and have given the most exhaustive treatment of the subject in the world. What we discovered in researching this from a historical and sociological perspective is that the modus operandi of concentrating on inner sounds seems intertwined with the theology of the local region. In other words, Christianity's understanding of Shabd yoga, a term we use loosely to mean simply any form of meditation that listens to the inner sound for concentration, is invariably explained in light of the Bible, whereas Sikhism's understanding is explained in light of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. The universal aspect of sound meditation, in other words, is relativized by the historical period in which it is practiced. In this context, therefore, Dara's experience and those of others in the Sufi tradition can be better understood not as peculiar or specific to Islam, but rather as an untapped human potential. Miyan Mir suffered from many ailments as he aged. He had a long bout with dysentery, and this may have been due to an outbreak of cholera that was prevalent during the reign of Shah Jahan. There is some uncertainty about how old he was when he passed away, with some claiming that he was 107 years old, whereas others suggest 97 years old. Dara's own estimation seems the most reasonable, and given his research into the matter, states that the master died in his 80s on August 11, 1635. Dara Shikoh was present at his teacher's funeral and gave a eulogy praising his many spiritual attributes. Miyan Mir's body was buried about a mile outside of Lahore proper. Today, it is regarded as a sacred shrine and is visited by thousands of pilgrims yearly. It is also worth noting that Dara's wife, Nadira Begum, was very devoted to Miyan Mir and wished to have her remains buried near her spiritual teacher, which they eventually were. Miyan Mir's legacy transcends sectarianism since he is accorded great respect amongst followers of other religions, especially the Sikhs. Indeed, when Guru Arjan, the fifth Guru in the lineage of Guru Nanak, visited Lahore, the birthplace of his father, Guru Ramdas, he met with the esteemed Sufi, and they became lifelong friends. Indeed, so close was their relationship that it is a long-held belief, even if some scholars suspect its historicity, that Guru Arjan personally invited Miyan Mir to lay the foundation stone of Sri Harmandir Sahib, more popularly known around the world as the Golden Temple. As Navid Zaidi recounts, Miyan Mir was highly respected by the Sikhs. He was a man who had a deep love for Guru Nanak's teachings. Miyan Mir often travelled to Amritsar to meet with Guru Arjan. In turn, whenever Guru Arjan visited Lahore, he would always meet with Miyan Mir. Miyan Mir knew a large number of Guru Arjan's verses by heart. In 1588, Guru Arjan Dev planned to build a temple in Amritsar, now known as the Golden Temple. The temple was to be open to people of all castes and creeds. The Hindu temples were closed on three sides, and their entrances were generally towards the east, while Muslim mosques had entrances towards the west. The Sikh temples had entrances on all four sides, denoting that God was in all directions and that the Gurudwara was open to all. Guru Arjan invited Miyan Mir to lay the foundation stone of the Golden Temple. Miyan Mir was given a customary warm welcome. The two masters embraced each other in sincere love and regard. Miyan Mir was delighted with Guru Arjan's ideas. The foundation stone was laid, hymns were sung in the praise of God, and sweets were distributed. If the story about Miyan Mir laying the foundation stone at the Golden Temple is true, one wonders why Dara Shikoh and others make no mention of it, given its historic implications. Yet what is perhaps more significant is that the Sufi mystic was, and is, held in such high esteem that the legend continues and is a testimony in itself about the high regard the Sikhs had for a sage not of their own community. There are also stories that abound where Miyan Mir desired to act as a protector for his friend, Guru Arjan, from the persecutions of the then Emperor, Jahangir, who was affronted by the popularity of the holy man, who was attracting many people to his ministry. In his autobiography, The Tuzuk-i-Jahangir, the Mughal Emperor doesn't mince words in his disrespect of the Sikh leader when he writes, "In Gobindwal, which is on the river Bias, there was a Hindu named Arjun, in the garments of sainthood and sanctity, so much so that he had captured many of the simple-hearted of the Hindus, and even of the ignorant and foolish followers of Islam, by his ways and manners, and they had loudly sounded the drum of his holiness. They called him Guru, and from all sides stupid people crowded to worship and manifest complete faith in him. For 3 or 4 generations of spiritual successors, they had kept this shop warm. Many times it occurred to me to put a stop to this vain affair, or to bring him into the assembly of the people of Islam. At last, when Khusrau passed along this road, this insignificant fellow proposed to wait upon him. Khusrau happened to halt at the place where he was, and he came out and did homage to him. He behaved to Khusrau in certain special ways, and made on his forehead a finger mark in saffron, which the Indians, Hinduan, call kashka, and is considered propitious. When this came to my ears, and I clearly understood his folly, I ordered them to produce him, and handed over his houses, dwelling places, and children to Murtaza Khan, and having confiscated his property, commanded that he should be put to death. Even though Khusrau was his eldest son, Emperor Jahangir held a deep-seated jealousy and animosity towards him. Therefore, when Guru Arjan met with Khusrau and showed him favour reports came back to Jahangir about the meeting who was outraged, as the previous quote clearly indicates. This was primarily because Khusrau wanted to usurp his father's throne, and any outside alliance, such as with the Sikhs, was threatening to the Jahangir. As the Encyclopedia of the Sikhs explains, the fugitive prince during his flight from Agra to Lahore in April 1606 met Guru Arjan, probably at Tarn Taran. According to Sarup Dasbala, Mahima Prakash, he was in serious trouble. The Guru extended to him the hospitality of Guru Ka Langar. Spending the night there, he resumed his journey. The Guru's detractors, headed by Chandu Shah, then a revenue official at the court, incited the emperor, while he was still in Lahore, against Guru Arjan, alleging that he had given help to the rebel prince and blessed him by putting a tilak, a mark of royalty, on his forehead. Jahangir, according to what was recorded in his autobiography, resolved to put an end to his preachings or bring him to the fold of Islam. So the Guru was summoned to his court and ordered to pay a heavy fine. Guru Arjan refused to pay the fine, feeling that he had done nothing wrong. Jahangir, growing wearing of the sweltering heat of the Punjab, left for the coolness of Kashmir. Asked what to do about the matter of the imprisoned Guru, he left the matter of the Guru's fate to Murtaza Khan, the governor of Lahore. The emperor told him to deal with the Guru in whatever manner he chose. At this point, Chandu Shah saw the opportunity he had been waiting for. He pressed the governor to demand the fines the emperor had levied. The Qazi issued an injunction demanding that the Guru pay the fine and remove the references to the Muslim and Hindu religions from the Sikhs' holy book, or be tortured to death. At this juncture, it is believed, though proper documentation of the same is scarce, that Miyan Mir tried to act as an intercessor on behalf of his friend, Guru Arjan, but apparently to no avail. Attempting to intercede and put an end to the torture of his friend Guru Arjan, Hazrat Sant Miyan Mir offered to use his influence to have the Guru released. But Guru Arjan would have no part of it. He told the Sant that the matter was in Vahaguru's hands, saying that no one should intercede in what God had ordained. Earlier, the Sikhs had learned of their Guru's fine and had begun to raise funds to pay it. The Guru had also forbidden them from interceding. The Guru was tortured for 5 days. Then he was allowed to take a bath, per his request, in the nearby river. Barely able to keep his balance on feet, which were horribly blistered, the Guru entered the river's cooling waters and slipped away beneath the waters into eternity. The 30th of May, 1606, is remembered as the date of the first martyrdom of the Sikhs. Jahangir's debauchery, he was an opium and alcohol addict, was one of the reasons that his father, Akbar, favoured his grandson, Khusrau, to be the heir apparent. Jahangir despised his own son and his ambition so much that he had him blinded, only to regret such a horrific action later when it was too late. Jahangir's other son and eventual successor, Shah Jahan, killed Khusrau under the pretense that he was attempting to escape captivity and would try to secure the throne for himself. Such were the politics of the Mughal Empire that brothers killed brothers and fathers tortured their own sons. In the midst of all this hatred, the benevolence of Miyan Mir and mystics like him stand out as a rare oasis for those seeking a more compassionate and harmonious life. While it is true that Dara Shikoh's father showed favour to certain Sufi sages, he did so to protect his fiefdom. What is so troubling and difficult to comprehend is how murderous Shah Jahan could be to secure his throne. He murdered and blinded his brother Shahryar in 1628. He executed 2 nephews and 2 cousins in 1628. He ordered his own elder brother, the blind Khusrau's death by strangulation in 1622 in Burhanpur. He also killed his own young nephew, Dawar Baksh. Yet despite all this barbaric activity, which to be sure was the norm for centuries in the Mughal Empire, Dara Shikoh, sought out an escape from the unending fighting and internecine battles with his blood relatives. Miyan Mir's teaching was his refuge. Although Dara provides several miraculous stories concerning his teacher, the real focus was on how best to align one's entire being to the will of Allah, and in the process became melted in the sea of his guidance and love. Although we cannot perfectly catalogue the teachings of Dara's Sufi master, the following provide touchstones for deeper reflection. 1. If someone brings a present to a meeting, they will distribute it equally among all attendees. They will do this without hesitation, ensuring that everyone receives an equal share. For instance, one day, a person brought oranges to a meeting and started giving 5 oranges to each attendee. However, one person did not receive their share. It turned out that a servant had set aside 5 oranges separately. The host instructed the servant to bring those 5 oranges and give them to the person who had missed out. The servant, feeling ashamed, complied and gave the oranges to the person. 2. His routine was to close his room at night and engage in the worship of Allah. During the daytime, he would go to gardens, forests, and other secluded places where there was no human traffic. There, he could worship Allah in peace. This method is still followed by his friends. 3. It was the practice of Hazrat Miyan Mir to allow a person to live in his service to seek benefit and guidance. After some time, he would ask that person to leave so they could engage in the worship of Allah independently. 4. For a Sufi, non-existence and self-destruction in the spiritual sense are essential. He should not be interested in miracles because he himself is a living miracle. 5. The ascetic follows: less eating, less sleeping, less idleness, and more prayer, more fasting, more remembrance, more hearing of the divine. 6. Only for the sake of propagating the unity of God and the reality of faith were all prophets sent. It is compulsory for holy persons to engage in the following works: unity of God, reality of faith, reviving dead hearts, opening closed locks, giving life to afflicted souls. For us, there is no greater miracle, status, level of position or revelation than reviving dead hearts and untying knots. We must not live carelessly or allow others to live in negligence. 7. The thought of anyone else besides God reduces your degree of renunciation and asceticism. 8. The urge of submission to God and of doing good is greater when the friends of God are young, and it increases during the period of old age. So it is that the urge to get a thing when an individual is young increases during the period of her old age. 9. The self is reformed by Shariat, the heart is reformed by Tariqat, and the soul is reformed by Hakikat. 10. When a fakir becomes perfect and his heart is cleared of doubt, then nothing can give him her harm or cause him her injury. He himself becomes a king then. He does not pay any regard to a king. The kings, on the contrary, are overpowered by him. After Miyan Mir died, there were several beautiful recitations that were given that underline the majesty of this most regal of beings. These have been compiled on the Sufi Tavern website and are pregnant with meaning and worthy of contemplation. O Miyan Mir, you are the opening of the book of the enlightened, the dust of the door of the envied elixir. He just travelled on to the eternal city. Here, in the valley of tears, he was sad and he was suffering. The intellect wrote down the date of his death. Miyan Mir went towards the highest paradise. Poem 2. Alas, the one who renounced the world completely has left the world. As pure as he was when he entered it, as pure he has left it. The circle around the center of the world became sad because of his death. The center of generosity has left us. The falcon of his soul, which was hunting for the highest wisdom, had heard the drum of the king, and quickly went away. The heart in the body is sad, as the trustworthy one has gone away. The soul has escaped from the body, its strong support has gone away. Poem 3. We are in the caravan. Of the land of the living to the hereafter. He was a hero, and that is why he preceded us. Like the pupil of the eye, I am drowned in a stream of tears. From my wounded eyelashes, many tears came forth. I said, until my end, I will complain because of him. The strength to speak has left me because of my sadness. The owners of a heart who have dead before their deaths, they drink from the cup of death, the water of eternal life. They have removed their luggage from the temporal residence, and then went on their way to the eternal kingdom. We sacrifice our lives for those who hardly took 1 or 2 steps on the path of the seeker, and already sacrificed their hearts and souls.